What would you have done if the President of the United States posed this option to you? Not only deploying National Guard troops around the authority of a sitting governor, but in fact deploying active duty U.S. Marines to an American city?
Well, if the president had actually asked me when I was a governor about deploying National Guard or active duty military, I would have first said, let's assess the situation and whether my law enforcement and civilian law enforcement has the capacity and capability to handle this. And in L.A., you've got a very large, urban, well-trained police department, and there are 88 other cities in L.A. County, all of whom have police departments that have mutual aid agreements with L.A., and you have the L.A. County Sheriff's Office, which is also a large department. And given what we're seeing on the media in terms of these protests, I would have said to the president, we have no need for militarization of this situation. This is a civil disturbance. There is violence. We will deal with the violence. We will make sure those individuals are arrested. But in terms of the peace and security of our community, we don't need to bring in 4,700 military folks, 4,000 Guard and 700 active duty Marines.
Well, and for those 4,700 service members who have been deployed, what are they actually capable of doing in a situation like this, where if and when the president invokes the Insurrection Act, sure, they might be able to ask or act in a law enforcement capacity, but cannot do so now? What is the real purpose of having them there?
Yeah, it's really kind of mysterious because, L.A. is a huge geographic city, and there have been pockets of violence which the media focuses on because they're very media appealing in that way. But most of the city is living very peacefully now. Business is going on, people are going to work, kids are going to school. And the order that the president executed was that the Guard could protect federal buildings. And, they're all in one basic area of L.A. And so I guess they're going to be standing around. We don't know what the rules of engagement are, and that's a risk. And if this is laying the predicate for invocation of the Insurrection Act, that's a real risk. This is militarization of what at base is a civil protest.
Look, we've got a lot of politics going on here. Governor, you know that, and you're no stranger to that business. And there are questions about the way Democrats should be messaging this. Hearing a lot of whataboutism when you ask certain Republicans about this. Earlier today, Republican Congresswoman Lisa McClain of Michigan, who chairs the House Republican caucus, had this response to the protests. Have a listen.
Remember, the Democrats are the ones that demanded that we defund the police. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you get when you defund the police. They are the ones who want to abolish ICE. Well, guess what? ICE is the one that protects us.
Janet Napolitano, how do you respond?
It's baloney. It's just baloney. It's old tropes that are not the policy nor the position of the Democratic Party. And in fact, the Los Angeles Police Department is a well-funded, well-trained department in a very highly urbanized and very diverse environment. They're used to dealing with these kinds of situations. One of the issues with bringing in the Guard, and particularly with bringing in active duty Marines, is de-escalation, restoring, having a safe and secure environment is not what they're trained to do. And so you have that issue. You have all kinds of operational issues when you just flood the zone with all of these guardsmen and active duty Marines. The communications issues with the folks who are really in charge of safety and security of this area, which is the police department and the sheriff's office. Now, there may be circumstances where it is appropriate to bring in the Guard. During the Rodney King riots in 1992, which were much more widespread, much more serious, much more destructive, the Guard came into Los Angeles at the governor's request. So I look at this as a problem, not only operationally, but a problem of state sovereignty and not adhering to the wishes of the governor. And I also look at it as a problem of proper use of the military on at home in a domestic environment.
Well, obviously, Republicans in the administration are arguing that all of this gets to the root of one domestic issue, which is the border and immigration. And I ask you this as a former governor of a border state, but also someone who used to run the Homeland Security Department. When they say that what we're seeing is evidence that we need more ICE agents, need more Border Patrol and Customs agents, do you see that need as justified? Do we need more personnel in those roles?
Look, I think the border needs to be secure. And actually, I will say many of the things that the Trump administration has done on the border from an operational standpoint have been useful in that regard. But it's a different deal when you talk about interior enforcement within the United States. You know, there are, over time, there have been about 10 million or so undocumented individuals who now live in our country. If the Trump administration is really intent on rooting them all out and sending them all back to their countries of origin, they're going to be in every community. They're going to be in stores and schools and churches and courthouses all over the country, not just Los Angeles. I'm not sure that's what the American people voted for. What they were told during the campaign is that the administration would focus on deporting those who had committed other criminal offenses while they were in the country illegally. But that's not what we're seeing here, nor is it part of the plan for the so-called mass deportation.
Yeah, we've only got a minute left, Governor. Is Arizona ready for this? Is the city of Phoenix ready for a scenario like we're seeing in L.A.?
I would think so. I would think that any governor and any big city mayor right now would be looking at California and looking at what's going on in L.A., saying, you know, that could happen here too. We better make sure we're ready.